The impressive engineering of Noah's Ark. Imagine a vessel built thousands of years ago, without engines, without steel, without computers, and without any modern technology, yet designed with proportions so precise that modern naval engineers say it would have remained remarkably stable even in violent seas. Noah's Ark was not simply a gigantic boat. According to modern analyses, it possessed advanced engineering characteristics that seemed far beyond the knowledge available in the ancient world. The exact dimensions of the Ark. The biblical account in Genesis describes extremely specific measurements: 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high. Converted into modern measurements, the Ark would have been approximately 135 meters long, 443 feet, 22.5 meters wide, 74 feet, 13.5 meters high, 44 feet. That means it would have been larger than many ancient ships, about the size of a football field, comparable to a four-story building. The perfect ratio discovered by engineers. The most surprising part is not just the size, but the mathematical proportions of the vessel itself. The ratio between the Ark's length and width is approximately 6-to-1. Modern naval engineering experts state that this ratio is considered extremely efficient for maritime stability. Modern ships use very similar proportions to withstand massive waves, violent storms, extreme ocean movement. And that raises an intriguing question. How could man living in the ancient world know principles of naval architecture so advanced? The Ark was not built for sailing. One fascinating detail is that the Ark had no sails, oars, engine, steering system. It was not designed for speed. It was designed for survival. Its enormous rectangular shape functioned like an incredibly durable floating platform, capable of remaining stable even during catastrophic storms. According to modern studies, this design drastically reduces the risk of capsizing. The internal structure was sophisticated. Researchers believe the Ark may have included cross beams, structural support columns, internal compartments, a cellular framework similar to modern ships. These elements would distribute weight and absorb the impact of waves. Without them, a wooden vessel that size would likely snap apart during intense storms. The waterproof coating. The biblical text mentions the use of pitch. Pitch would have acted as a sealant, waterproof protection, a barrier against leaks and infiltration. In addition, specialists believe it may have increased the flexibility of the wood, allowing the structure to absorb impacts without cracking. The natural ventilation system. Another astonishing aspect was ventilation. The Ark contained an upper opening called a sohar. This would create a natural airflow system through convection. Warm air would naturally rise, pulling fresh air upward from the lower levels. Even without electricity, this could have provided continuous oxygen circulation for thousands of animals. Engineering far ahead of its time. Many scholars argue that ancient civilizations did not possess enough technical knowledge to design a vessel this size with such structural efficiency. That is why many people view the Ark as a miracle of engineering, a supernatural design, a construction inspired by divine knowledge. With every detail analyzed, Noah's Ark begins to look less like merely an ancient story and more like one of the most astonishing engineering projects ever described in human history. And perhaps the most unsettling question is this: how could such an ancient design apply engineering principles that modern science would only fully understand thousands of years later? How Noah built the Ark without modern technology. Now imagine this: building a gigantic ship more than 135 meters long without electricity, without engines, without cranes, without steel, without trucks, and without any modern machinery. It sounds impossible, but according to the biblical account, that is exactly what Noah did. And even more astonishing, he supposedly accomplished this monumental project with the help of only his 3 sons. The challenge was absolutely enormous. Most people imagine the Ark as an ordinary boat, but in reality, it would have been one of the largest wooden structures ever built in the ancient world, with dimensions of roughly 135 meters long, 22.5 meters wide, 13.5 meters high. The amount it would required would have been colossal. Experts estimate that thousands of trees would have needed to be cut down, transported, and prepared entirely by hand. All of that without chainsaws, without tractors, without electric tools. How they cut the wood. In ancient times, trees were cut using stone or metal axes, hand saws, wedges, primitive tools. Every single tree would require hours or even days of exhausting labor, and after cutting them down, the logs still needed to be stripped of bark, transported, cut into planks, dried, carefully shaped by hand. This transforms construction of the Ark into an almost unbelievable undertaking for its time. Transporting the materials. One of the greatest mysteries is this. How could they move gigantic beams without machines? Researchers believe they may have used wooden rollers, ropes, ramps, levers, animal power, coordinated teamwork. Ancient civilizations already used similar methods in construction of megalithic monuments. Even so, moving tons of timber would have required extraordinary effort. The construction took decades. According to traditional biblical interpretations, Noah may have spent approximately 120 years building the Ark. That means decades of planning, continuous construction, constant structural maintenance, massive organization of materials. During all that time, he would likely have faced scarcity of resources, harsh weather conditions, physical exhaustion, possible ridicule from people around him. After all, he was building an enormous ship far from sea. The mystery of the location. This is one of the most intriguing points. The text suggests that the Ark was built in a region without immediate access to the ocean. That seems completely illogical. Why build a colossal ship far away from water? According to the biblical narrative, Noah acted by faith, trusting in divine revelation about a flood that had not yet happened. That likely made him the target of criticism and mockery for decades. The Wood of Gopher. Another major mystery involves the so-called Gopher Wood. To this day, nobody knows exactly what type of wood it was. The main theory suggests cypress, cedar, a highly durable pine, or possibly an extinct species. What matters is that it would have needed very specific characteristics: exceptional strength, low water absorption, extreme durability, structural flexibility. In other words, the choice of material demonstrates advanced understanding of shipbuilding principles. How they assembled such a massive structure. A vessel of this size would face a severe problem. Wave pressure could split the hull in half. Because of this, researchers believe the Ark may have included cross beams, internal braces, structural compartments, longitudinal supports, very similar to what modern engineers use in today's ships. Without such systems, a wooden structure this large would likely collapse. The waterproof coating. After assembly, the Ark would need to be completely sealed. The biblical text again mentions the use of pitch. Pitch served as waterproofing, a sealant, protection against rot and decay. This would prevent leaks during months of violent storms. The most impressive factor, the size of the team. According to the biblical narrative, only 8 people directly participated in the mission. Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives. In other words, a project that today would require hundreds of workers and heavy machinery was supposedly accomplished almost entirely by one family. The more researchers analyze the details surrounding the Ark's construction, the more difficult it becomes to explain how a project of this magnitude could have been completed with such limited resources. And perhaps that is exactly what makes this story so fascinating even today. The idea that an impossible vessel for its era was built through faith, ancient knowledge, and extraordinary determination.